Thank you everyone for joining the webinar today. And I hope you all had a great weekend and a very happy Easter. My name is Sarabjit Kaur and I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I practice immigration law in Moncton, New Brunswick, and I also have office in Montreal, Quebec. And I'm also a member of CAPEC, which is a Canadian Association of Professional Immigration Consultants. And today I'm going to speak about Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, and we are going to learn step by step what the process can be and what stages you can expect during the process, and what will be the requirements for this program. Just to be on the right side of the law, this webinar is being recorded, so I have turned off video for all of you and I have muted you. So just wait till the end of this presentation if you have any questions. And if you missed any part during this seminar, don't worry too much because it will be available online and you can go on my social media accounts and watch it as many times as you want. So let's start with what AIPP is and why this program is unique. Well, you all know it's only for 4 Atlantic provinces, so I will not go into those basic things. But what makes this program very special is it's not part of Express Entry, so you don't have to worry about your CRS score. It's not linked to any PNP stream, so you don't have to worry about which category you want to apply for and if you will get 600 points, so you don't have to worry about those scenarios. It does not have any pool of candidates, which means it's first come, first serve. So you either apply for that program, you meet the requirements, and you get your PR, most likely. It does not have any point system. You either meet the requirements of program or you don't meet the requirements of this program. And my next slide is going to be what are those requirements, okay? So first thing first, to qualify under AIPP, you must have a job offer from a designated employer. What is designated employer? They are employers who are approved by Provincial Immigration Office to use AIPP program. So you may find those scenarios when employer is willing to help you, but they are not designated. So you have to go through that process if you want to use EIPP. Second main requirement is you must fall under any of these 3 programs. Which 3 programs? International Graduate Stream, High Skill Program, Intermediate Skill Program. Based on your profile, you may be eligible for more than one program, but you can only apply for one. And another thing to remember here is an LMIA is not required for AIPP. Okay, and on my next slide, we are going to see how you can be eligible for more than one program and how to choose the right program for you. So this is the basic table. This is the table for basic requirements for each program. So as you can see, the job offer for all these 3 programs must be full-time. Full-time means 30 hours per week. Your NOC. NOC can be 0A, B, or C for 2 programs, Atlantic International Graduate Stream and Intermediate Skilled Program. If you want to apply for High Skilled Program, then you can have only 0A or B NOC. Duration of your job offer is also an important factor. So if you're applying under graduate stream or high skill stream, your job offer should be actually a minimum of 1 year in duration. It can be of 2 years, it can be of 3 years, it can be permanent, but the minimum requirement is to be at least 1 year in duration. Whereas for intermediate skill program, your job offer should not have any end date. It's permanent job, like they're going to give you work forever. That's the commitment. Okay. Skilled work experience. Well, if you fall under international graduate stream, you don't need any experience. Okay. And this is the biggest benefit of if you graduate from any post-secondary public institute in Atlantic Canada and your course was 2 year in duration at post-secondary level, and you finished it within the 24 months before you apply for your PR application. Also, you don't need ECA under graduate stream. Why? Because your education is already from Canada. Okay, so you don't have to go through the ECA process. For other two streams, your your work experience should be at least of 1 year in the same NOC that your job offer is. So how do you count 1 year experience? It's 1560 hours, which can be full time, which can be part time over the period of 12 months. Okay, and for educational part, you must have at least high school diploma, and if your education is not from Canada, you must have a valid ECA. Language requirement for all these three programs is very interesting actually, and because of that reason it's my favorite program. You need only CLB 4, okay, which is approximately 4.5 bands or 5 bands in some modules. And for your proof of funds, you must have enough money to support yourself and your family when you arrive in Canada. However, if you already have a work permit and you are already working in Canada, you are exempt from this requirement. You don't have to show proof of funds. Okay, so these are basic requirements, and sometime what can happen based on your personal circumstances, you may be eligible for more than one program. And let's take an example. Uh, let's imagine we have someone named Raj, okay, and he's from India. He came to Canada as a student. He studied in Cape Breton University for 2 years. He took supply chain management, and now he's on his post-graduation work permit. He's working in NOCB, and his employer is very happy with his work, and he likes to stay him to he likes Raj to work for him like for long term, and he's willing to support him for his PR application. And in that scenario, Raj can be eligible for any of these three programs, right? Because he has NOCB. Uh, we are assuming like he have done his ECA and he has CL before, and he don't need proof of funds. So he can be eligible for any of these three programs, but he can apply through only one. And how you will decide which program is best for you? Since Raj is a graduate from Atlantic Institute, which is public and post-secondary, he will be more he will be benefited more if he apply for graduate stream. Why? Because he don't need any work experience. He don't have to prove like he had worked so many hours in that specific NOC. So that will save him 1 year of time. So my idea to give you an example here is uh, how to choose your program, okay, which will be the best fit for your needs. And let's say if his job contract was only for 1 year, okay, well then he was left with two options, either graduate stream or high skill stream. But again, which one is the best for him? Graduate stream. Again, why? Because no experience required. Okay, so let's say just imagine like you have an employer who is willing to support you, and you know which program you can fall under. Those requirements are clear to you. At this stage, I think you should be a little bit happy, because most of the time people have problem, or when I hear from students, they cannot find employer who is willing to support them for their PR application. So if you have an employer who is willing to support you in AIPP, and you should be thankful and also consider yourself lucky, okay, because this is the most struggling part for many people who wants to use this program. So in that scenario, let's say you have employer and you know which program you fall under, but your employer is not designated yet. He's employer in terms of labor standards, but he's not designated yet. So your first step will be to get the designation for your employer. According to the rules, it should be your employer who get the designation, but you can help them with the process if they have not done any application before, so you can help them how to make this work. So what happens is your employer contacts the provincial immigration office and express them that I want to use AIPP. Uh, they explain their situation, like for example, uh, they tell like we have this position and we have hard time to find any full-time worker for this particular area, and now I found this worker, but he's only here for 3 years, and I want him to stay longer, and I'm willing to support him for his PR, and I want to use AIPP for that. Okay. Once he got green light from the province, then your employer contacts with the settlement provider organization. What they do, they prepare the workplace to be very welcoming for the newcomer, which is you. Okay. And they also sometimes help them like what they can do better and what documents your employer might need. Okay. So your third step will be in this process, your employer have to submit an application to be designated. Okay. So some of you might have this question like, okay, we know our employer have to get designated, but what are the requirements for that? Okay. So in my next slide, I will discuss that in a little bit detail. For now, just imagine or just assume like your employer had applied for that. And we are also assuming that everything was correct in his file and he got the designation. The last step might not be applicable to all of you if you're already working in Canada. It's more about if the employer had not found anyone yet to work for him, but he applied for designation. Okay, now at this point he can find someone to work for him, and he do their interview and initial assessment, and then he offer them the job offer under AIPP. Okay, that's where you start your PR journey. These are the settlement organizations in Nova Scotia. Uh, you might have already heard about a few of them, but I'm just sharing it just in case if you don't know like what those settlement organizations are. You can also find their names on Google or on IRCC website. So these are the places where your employer have to go to make your workplace a better and welcoming for the newcomer, or you can go to these places like when you do your settlement plan. Okay, so here I'm going to explain a little bit about what are the generic requirements to get designation. uh, there are more commitments and more obligations on your employer than what you're seeing on my screen here, but some standard things that you have to keep in mind or your employer have to agree on is the business should be in good standing. The business must meet the eligibility criteria defined by the province. For example, for Nova Scotia, your business should be active, and for 2 years, it should be under the same management, and it should be operating for 2 years at least. And your employer plans to fulfill a non-seasonal job, which means a year around, and it's full time, and they offer you 30 hours of work every week. Also, they must meet the settlement needs of foreign national and family members. What those settlement needs can be, it varies based on your personal situation. For example, you might need housing, you might need school for your kids, or you want to play cricket. So you need some social clubs, okay, to make you feel better integrated into the society and make you feel more comfortable in Nova Scotia, for example, here. The last point that I have in bold here, it might not be applicable to all of you again, because it's mainly for those people who are coming from abroad under intermediate skill program. But that part can be confusing for your employer. So whenever your employer apply for the designation, they have to agree to this condition, like if they are using intermediate skilled uh, stream and they're offering job in NCC, and for some reason if this job does not exist anymore and employer designation got revoked or something happened during the process, then employee have to return back to his home country, and employer have to pay for returning cost. So in some situations, your employer might get it wrong. Uh, they might be willing to help you, but they don't want to pay for your expenses if you have to return back to your country. But if you are holder of a post-graduation work permit, then even if you're applying under intermediate skill level, that condition should not affect you. Why? Because let's say you are recent graduate, okay, and you want to apply under intermediate skill program with NOCC, and you still have 3 years of your work permit. You apply for your endorsement and your PR, and somewhere in the process, your application got refused. And this refusal process took around 6 to 8 months, let's say. Even you lost those 6 months, okay, your employer cannot say, okay, like, I don't have this job anymore, or I cannot support you anymore, and you have to go back to your country. Why? Because even you're applying under this program, you still have work permit which is valid for more than 2 years, hopefully. So you're not returning back to your country. Maybe you will apply again. Maybe you will look for any other immigration program which can fit your criteria, and maybe you have better chance there. But you're not going back, right? So make sure your employer understand this condition properly. So sometimes what can happen, like they don't understand it and they just refuse you. Like, okay, you're working in NOCC, we have to take this responsibility. So sorry, we cannot help you. So if that is the scenario, explain them why it's not applicable to you. Okay, so once your employer get the designation, your next step is endorsement. I know many of you are working for employers who have never done this process before, so they don't know like where to go and what the steps are. So by the rule, your employer sends you to a settlement organization, okay, the people who provide settlement services, which I shared in a couple slides back. So when you go to them and they assess your needs and they prepare a plan for you, and once your settlement plan is done, then you send the copy of this settlement plan to your employer, which you have to include in your endorsement application. So my suggestion here will be, if your employer don't know how to do this process, please do it for themselves. Sit with them, take time, and take your responsibility. Just don't say, well, this is employer's part. They're already helping you. So take your time, research a little bit, and guide them. Okay, like this is the step. This is what you need to do. This is where you have to go. So you have to take that lead command if your employer have not done anything before like this. So when you have your settlement plan, here comes the crucial part when you submit your endorsement application. Uh, why this part is crucial? Because at this point, you have to choose which program you're applying under, and you have to do all your paperwork. Sometimes you can have confusions like to choose the right program for you and whatever. Okay, so here you have to spend some time with your employer and make sure you're approaching the right pathway, because that's important. And for some reason, if you choose the wrong program and if you submit the wrong documents, your application will be returned to you, and then you have to apply again, and that will be wastage of your time and your employer's time. And maybe for the second time they don't want to apply for you. Okay. Next thing here is, if you are in need of a work permit, let's say your work permit is expiring and you're applying through AIPP, or let's say you're abroad. So when you do your endorsement application, there is a one question that you have to tick mark: do you need a work permit? Check it out if you need a work permit. Okay, check this box. And at that point, you might, if you meet all the other requirements, you might get 1 year work permit. Okay. And let's say everything goes well, and the province received your application, they reviewed it, and they approved it. And then you get an endorsement letter, okay, which is valid for 6 months. And some might have question like, okay, we know what to submit in the documents, but where to send the application? This is where you send your application for endorsement in Nova Scotia. You can mail it, you can bring that in person, but make sure there is no COVID restrictions in your region when you're doing so. I will suggest you to email your application because it's more fast, secure, and you always have one copy of your documents. And you can update if something happens. This is the quickest way to reach them. And third step, which is another big step, uh, it's the point where you all want to be involved in the step, and this is all your main goal, kinda. So your third step is your immigration application. For your step one and step two, like for designation and for endorsement, it was your employer who was submitting application on your behalf. You were helping him, but it was employer who was doing the final thing, okay, or the final submission. For immigration application, you comes in the picture, and it's your responsibility to send your PR application within a right time frame, and you submit your endorsement letter and any other required documents based on your stream. And here you can include your medical, your police clearance, your IELTS score, your work experience letters, your job offer, your endorsement letter, and stuff like that. If you're already living in Canada, your status documents, stuff like that. If you submit everything properly, then your application will be processed within 6 months. Okay, and once approved, that's your party time. Okay, so once your PR application get approved, you come to Atlantic Canada if you are not in Canada already, and then you go through your settlement plan and see how you plan to fund your housing, and you work with your employer for your integration into the society. Okay, they guide you through the process. Okay, where you can find school for your kids, where you can take language classes, where you can take driving classes, for example. Uh, okay, so now I'm going to talk about some common misconceptions about AIPP that I often listen from people. First one is, uh, do my experience have to be gained only in Atlantic Canada? Answer is no. Your experience can be from anywhere in the world, anywhere in the Canada, as long as you were legally authorized to work in that country or in Canada. Okay, some provinces might have different criteria, but for Nova Scotia, as of now, it's okay if your work experience is from overseas. Another misconception is um, work experience during the studies does not count. Um, Again, it's wrong information. As long as you does not exceed the number of hours you were allowed to work, you can include your experience during the studies. It's like 20 hours per week when you were enrolled in your program, and when you have break, it can be full time, and your experience does not have to be continued. It can be part time, it can be with two different employers, but as long as the NOC is same. Another one is getting endorsement means granted PR. I wish it was true, but it's not true in reality. So province is responsible only for the endorsement. They are not the final one to take decision on your PR application. So it's IRCC who does your final check, and they check your security records, your criminal records, they do medical screening and all those admissibility criteria, whether you fall under the definition of AIPP or this stream, and do you have any valid job offer, your endorsement letter is valid. They do check all those requirements, and then they make final decision. Okay, so don't celebrate too much just with the endorsement. The final thing outcome is still pending unless you get decision. This question I get most of the time. I don't know from where you get this information, where are you reading it. Uh, this is like, should I include my parents or my in-laws in my P.E.I application? Well, you cannot include them. Okay. Why? Because according to IRCC, the family definition means uh, it's you, your spouse, or your common law partner, your dependent children, and dependent children of your children. And when it comes to dependent children, it's only till the age of 22. So if your kid is more than 22, you cannot include them in your P.E.I application unless they are medical dependent on you. Okay. And what is the processing time for endorsement application? Uh, Before COVID, it was 2 to 4 months, provided that your employer submitted everything properly and there's no missing document. So that was the timeline that most of the time people hear back. But because of COVID, it can be a little longer too, depending on which area you are in and the number of application and the circumstances or the labor market situation. Okay. Do I need to change my job level from NOCC to B to get PR? Well, not really. It depends which stream you are applying under. For example, if you are applying under AIPP and you are international graduate and you're choosing that stream, NOCC is fine. Okay. For Nova Scotia, they are not accepting truck drivers under AIPP. So uh, that can be your situation. So if there is a particular condition, you have to check with the province, but normally you don't have to change your NOC just because you think this way. You might be eligible for another program. So in that scenario, do your evaluation first and see if what is required for that stream. Okay, so that will be your checklist. Another question that I get most of the time is when I should submit my medical and police clearance. For endorsement application, medical and police clearance is not required, but you must submit them with your P.E.I application. Well, you can even submit them after your P.E.I application, but that will delay the processing of your P.E.I application. So my suggestion will be when your employer applies for your endorsement, start collecting those documents. Apply for your police clearance. If you lived in another country, that can take some time because you need your police clearance from all the countries that you lived more than 6 months since the age of 18. Next question I got most of the time is about why I'm not hearing back from the province. I submitted everything. Why it's taking so long? What I should do? Well, you can contact your province and see if any document is missing. There can be many reasons for delay in process. Maybe you have not submitted your IELTS score. Maybe you used old forms. Maybe you made mistakes in application forms. Maybe there is COVID-19 breakout in your region and your office is closed. Okay. So those can be the things. And if you already submitted your application, I recommend to contact your province and see where your processing is. And if you are yet to submit your application, okay, you have everything ready, I will suggest you to get your documents reviewed by someone who knows the process. Okay. Uh, I only recommend authorized immigration representatives because I don't believe that your friends and people that you're hearing on internet, they are a reliable source of information. I don't believe them. Okay. Uh, they might be, but I don't know, right? So I don't recommend to go to just left and right and ask your friends like how you did this thing and what to submit, because what might be applicable in their situation might not be good for your situation. So get your documents reviewed by someone who is authorized to give immigration advice. uh, you might not you might face this situation like, well, immigration consultants are asking to do the entire application. Well, I'm not sure like in your region who is offering these services, but I do. For me, it's okay if you do your immigration application by yourself. I have done my own immigration by myself all my life, okay, before getting my license. So to me, it's okay. Like you have a right to do your application your own, and it's okay if you just need a second opinion on your application, right? So I do offer those services if you are close to submit your application, but you just want to make sure you did everything right. You bring your application to me, and I review your documents, I review your forms, and if something is missing, there is an error in the application, I will let you know. Okay, but there is charge for that fee. There is charge for that service. If you're interested in your documentation review, you can contact me later on. Okay, but I do offer those services. I'm not sure about other people. Okay, so when I talk about authorized immigration representatives, who they are, okay, you can meet anyone on internet, right? But how do you find this person is actually immigration consultant? Sorry, an immigration consultant or immigration lawyer, right? So for immigration consultants in Canada, you can check their status with ICCRC. I have shown you this example here for my status. So when you Google find an immigration consultant, okay, or find a professional in immigration, you click on this URL, okay, it will show up in your search list in Google. And then you put the last name for the person, your first name, and company name. And then you hit on the search button. It will bring you to these results. For me, for example, this is my identification number with my regulatory board, ICCRC, and my status is active. It means I'm a member in good standing with them, and I can give advice on immigration for a fee. When you click on contact, it will pop up the information about my company, my contact number, my email. Okay, so this is how you can find immigration consultants. For immigration lawyer, each province have their own websites, own law society um, pages. So you can check that person with the law society of that particular province. Who else can give you advice for a fee? Notary Public, who is a member in good standing with Chamber of Notary Quebec, or any law student under their supervision. Uh, important to keep important to keep in mind is if you don't find a person, okay, in that list, then the person who is giving you advice, they cannot charge you any fee. Okay, so only these 4 or 5 kind of people can ask for money in return of immigration advice. Now you might be wondering, okay, like we know there are immigration consultants who take some fee, but we don't want to pay them. Okay, we want to do everything ourselves and we need free information. So my suggestion will be go to these websites, okay, to find the free information. Don't just ask your friend or your neighbor, okay. Always verify the information on cic.gc.ca. That will be your best friend in entire immigration process. Does not matter what kind of application you are doing, from where you are doing, this is where you can find all the time updated information. And remember, it's cic.gc.ca, not .com, not .in. Okay, so be careful. It ends with only gc.ca. For Nova Scotia immigration, you can go on novascotiaimmigration.com. That's their website for immigration matters. If you need COVID updates for Nova Scotia, because all presentation was about Nova Scotia, you can go on this third website, okay? It's all about like what's happening in the region and what new regulations are and all updates on the government stuff, okay? So that will be your best bet. And if you might have to spend a couple hours every day while you're doing your process if you go on these websites, because you have to find the information. Okay, but if you cannot find it yourself, then you need to take help from someone who knows how to do things and where to find the information. Okay, so I will be closing off my recording right now, and I will be taking the questions offline. If you are watching this session on my social media, and if you have any questions, you can write in the comments. You can write me through an email. You can visit my website. You can follow me on Instagram. I will be doing more Q&As in coming month on my Instagram, and you can follow me on Facebook as well. Okay. And I hope this entire session was somewhat useful for you all, and you have somewhat clarity what to expect during the process. And thank you again for joining the seminar. And if you're watching video, don't forget to tell me if you have any questions, okay? And now I'm going to close the video, and thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. I hope you did not sleep. All right, have a good day. Thank you.